Yay. Hello, Liberty Ninja. I won't be started until 2. I just decided to turn on my camera. So I'm getting organized for a few minutes. But I will for sure be starting at 2. I just thought if you wanted to hang with me while I get everything together. Oh, hello. That's not going to work. Hi, guys. I will officially be getting started at 2. I just popped on a little early. If you want to hang while I get everything together, I'll be looking at the chat. Hi, Lance. Hello, Smitty. Give me 1 second. I'm pulling. 1 second. Is that a microwave or something for Eva? It's yeah, I'll put her in a little bit. She's sleeping. It's a cat house. It's a cat scratcher house. And it's shaped like a television. It kind of does look like a microwave, doesn't it? I'm good. How are you all? I will, if anyone just popped in, I'm officially getting started at 2 in about 7 minutes. I just thought I would turn the camera on because I'm just sitting here. Ow! TV, yeah. They didn't have the last cat scratcher house. Morning, it's afternoon here. The last cat scratcher house I had was a taco truck and it was super cute, but they don't have that there anymore. I get them at Target. Ah. This thing is not plugging in. Old TV. Yeah, it's an old TV. It has little antennas too. Having issues. There we go. Hi, Steven. That's Eva's cat house. Yes, it's Eva's cat house. Hopefully it comes back. I know they change designs every season. So ones. I thought that outlet was gonna I got it. I fought the outlet and the outlet did not win. Hello, welcome everybody. If you just joined, I will officially get started in 5 minutes. I decided to turn the camera on early, but I'm still looking at the chat. So, hi Sarah, how are you? Every time I say Sarah, my name, my Siri pops on. I'm taking ibuprofen for an earache and toothache. Can't see doctor until Monday. Highlights. You know what? I've been getting an earache as well, sort of a really mild one. I get it. Biden did what? Finish this. There you go. There's a game you can play in the chat. Biden did what? Finish the sentence. Allergies have been really, really bad in Virginia recently. We just have pollen everywhere. I've been getting a little bit of an earache and it sucks. Earaches are the worst. But you have an earache and a toothache. I used to get, well, when I was really little, I would get really bad earaches and I had to go to the doctor and get some sort of fluid in my ear. And when I was maybe 12, 11 or 12, I got really bad swimmer's ear. And I remember it was over the summer and I had to fly. And being up in the airplane just killed my ear. It was the worst. And something similar happened to me um, earlier this year. I was traveling on a plane and I was asleep on the plane coming back to Virginia. I was from California to Virginia and I woke up and I had this excruciating ear pain, very similar to what I had when I was younger. And think, think the Lord up above that we were getting ready to land, because as we got closer to the ground, the earache subsided, but it definitely had some lingering pain for the next few, probably for the next few weeks. The newest Tom McDonald song is out. Oh, thank you for letting us know. I'll have to listen to that later. I haven't done a reaction in a long time, but I think I'll do one. Maybe I'll do one tonight for Tom McDonald's song because I haven't done one in a long time. I love Tom McDonald. Clicked it right away. Okay, it must be good. What's the name of the song? I ruptured an eardrum in the military. Ooh, oh, uh, it's the worst. All right, I will officially start in 2 minutes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This week went by so fast. The system or system. Oh, that already sounds like it'll be a good one. Well, they're all good, honestly. The system. Time flies when your country seems like it's going to burn down. I actually have a little bit of good news today. I tried to pick light. Let's see. Yeah, I have like good news. A little bit. I'm old school metalhead and I like Tom McDonald. Good news. How are the geese? Oh, I checked to see if they were around today and they were not. We're supposed to get really bad storms this afternoon. We were supposed to get bad storms a few days ago, but it passed. I heard the storms were at Virginia Beach, but it's supposed to get pretty bad this afternoon. So hopefully that doesn't interrupt our time together. Hi, Miles. How are you? Happy Friday. Okay, let's get started. First, I'll get started with the good news. So, we were talking yesterday about the Recall George Gascon campaign that's happening in Los Angeles. He's our super progressive DA who's very soft on crime, doesn't charge for special enhancements. A special enhancement would be like if someone attacks you with a deadly weapon, if there's gang violence, if it involves a gang, that's a special enhancement, which can give people longer sentences. That's just one of the things that he refuses to do. Criminals, as soon as they are arrested, they're usually let right back out before the paperwork dries. I told my niece that geese are called honkies. Hello, honk. Oh my goodness gracious. Uh, anyway, so we were talking about George Gascon. The campaign is actually going really well. They have 2 more months to collect signatures. They already have 400,000 signatures. They only need 167,000 more signatures. And something pretty high profile happened. I'm sure you heard about it. We talked about it yesterday, I believe. Dave Chappelle was performing at the Hollywood Bowl. This crazy person ran on stage, attempted to attack him. Come to find he had a deadly weapon in his pocket. It was this really crazy looking, it was like a fake gun with a knife sticking out of it. Very weird. Well, anyway, the news came out that the district attorney was not going to be filing a felony charge on him. And this really made a lot of people mad. And even Joe Rogan took to social media and said something about it. And I think that this is going to be really, really good for really, really bad for George Gascon, really good for the recall campaign. Um, and I'm already hearing that there was this man, his name is Kevin Kiley. He ran for governor of California. And he already stated publicly, I actually think this recall is going to go through. The one in San Francisco with Chesa Bodine, he's their super progressive DA. That recall effort went through. So they will be voting in July or June. I think they will be voting in June whether or not they are going to recall him. And if enough signatures are gathered in November, the residents of Los Angeles will vote whether or not they want to recall Gascon. And with Joe Rogan bringing light to this and with what happened with Dave Chappelle, I think a lot of people might be considered, a lot of people that before might not have known about this or might not have considered signing, they will now. So this is what Joe Rogan actually put this on his Instagram. And it is from, I think, the Hollywood Reporter. Is that the Hollywood Reporter? I don't know. It doesn't matter. So he basically put this headline on his Instagram, and it says LA District Attorney declines felony charges for suspect in Dave Chappelle Hollywood Bowl attack. Prosecutors determined that while criminal conduct occurred, the evidence presented did not constitute felony conduct. A spokesperson for the department told the Hollywood Reporter. So, this is the headline that Joe Rogan put on his Instagram, and I will read you what he wrote underneath. If I can find it, I just had it right here. Okay, he says this, and this is keep in mind that this guy came and attacked him. You don't know what would have happened. He had this deadly weapon. Would he have used it? I have no idea. But Joe Rogan said when you see a person commits a clear crime and does it to one of the most loved performers alive and does it in a very high profile public setting and it gets captured on video and you don't charge that person for what they obviously did, it's the kind of thing that makes people lose faith in law enforcement. And that's absolutely right. So, what happens when you have a lot of these prosecutors that don't prosecute crimes? People actually stop reporting crimes because they're like, what's the point in the first place if the person is just going to get released all over again? And then you have officers who don't want to even arrest the person because what's going to happen if I arrest the person? They're going to be, hi, Eva, get in your house. Where's her catnip? Come here. Let's see if Eva will get in her house. Police don't even want to arrest that person. They're like, what's the point? I'm doing all this paperwork. I'm putting my safety on the line and doing all these things. And then this individual, Eva, is going to get released. Come here. Come on. I put a lot in there. I'm trying to convince her. Hello, Eva's gateway drug. Get in the house. Come here. And then Sagar, he's the host of The Realignment. Joe Rogan also put a quote from him, and it says, what does somebody need to actually do to get charged with a crime in Los Angeles? Joe Rogan also talked about this situation on his show. And I think that brought a lot of light to what's happening with our DA. Assault does not count. Well, in my opinion, it was assault with a deadly weapon. He had a deadly weapon on him. He didn't use it, but how do you know he wasn't going to use it? Ah, she's in there. You see her? I think more arm twisting is needed. Yeah, the guy didn't make out too well. Premeditated as well. Yeah, all of that evidence is there. It's on camera. And this person didn't get charged. What was really interesting, I thought I would tell you this just for funnies. Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock, I don't know if it was that night or the following night, they did a surprise show at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, and they both spoke about what happened to them And I just thought this was really funny. The cops aren't going to enforce the law. I think we will see more cases of vigil. Yes, I agree. So Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock did a little set at the Comedy Store, and they were both joking about how they each got slapped or got I want catnip. Oh look, hi. Oh, I'm gonna little shine a little light on you. Now she's lit up. So they were joking about the people that came and attacked them, and Chappelle says it's Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle on the stage. Chappelle says, "At least you got smacked by someone of repute. I got smacked by a homeless guy with leaves in his hair." And then Rock chuckled and quipped back, "I got smacked by the softest person that ever rapped." So there's that. She is. I sort of like her in the background. Inner city black area people lose wealth due to criminal activity. Black civilian lose enormous wealth due to this type of criminals. Is that cat in a microwave? No, it's a TV. Oh my god, a TV house. Do you know about YouTube Romanian Twee? He's a political commentator and cat lover too. Would love to see you two collab. What's his name? Hold on. Romanian TV. Yeah, he was the get jiggy with it guy. Will Smith was. All right. Now this I actually think is really really cool. Kudos to I just said kudos. Ew. I very much like what Sony did here. So, we all know that a lot of corporations sort of bow to the CCP. They will change their messaging, they will change their products, especially Hollywood. I think it was Star Wars that had to change their whole movie poster. People have to change different scenes and films. For instance, Star Wars had to start the poster of Star Wars in China actually took a black character off. And these are the kinds of things that happen all the time with China. And a lot of these corporations, too, especially Disney and Nike, the NBA, they love to lecture Americans on all kinds of social justice. Disney infamously had a lot to say about the Don't Say Gay bill in Florida. Well, Sony, I thought this was really cool. Microwave is a cat house in North Korea. So Sony refused to censor Spider-Man No Way Home for China, sacrificing hundreds of millions of dollars. This is a very cool story. Major movie studios censoring or altering content to appease China has been one of the biggest stories in Tinseltown for several years now. A new report, however, reveals that at least one entertainment company wasn't willing to play that game. Multiple unnamed sources told the Hollywood trade publication Puck that Sony Pictures refused to make changes to its 2021 blockbuster Spider Man No Way Home in order to secure a release in the Middle Kingdom. According to the outlet, Chinese regulators, the CCP and China's National Film Administration, were bothered by patriotic scenes in the movie's climatic action sequence at the Statue of Liberty. The CCP asked Sony to cut shots that clearly showed Peter Parker and his squad of good guys battling villains on top of Lady Liberty. While the Japanese owned companies rebuffed that request, censors then asked producers to minimize the statue or darken scenes that included so it would be less notable. Did she? Once again, Sony said no. As a result, China banned the film. Analysts estimate that Sony's decision to pass up the rich box office potential And the world's largest movie market likely cost the film, it didn't really cost them, this is just revenue they're not earning, but it likely cost them about 170 to 340 million dollars. That said, the web slinger's latest outing managed to rake in huge profits even without the help of Chinese audiences. So that's a huge, this is one of the biggest problems with China, and why so many people, or why so many corporations bow to them, is because China has roughly a population of a billion people. We have a population of 340 million, somewhere around that. And that's a huge market. That's a huge potential for them to make a lot of money. So instead of, keeping to their principles, they appease the CCP and the censorship of the CCP, so that they don't lose out on all of that money. Nike does it, Disney does it, the NBA does it, and that's just to name a few. More like 2 billion. Yeah. Either way, it's a lot more than we have in the US. So that's a lot of potential money for them to make. Um, So while No Way Home may represent the biggest movie Sony has declined to change to please China, it's not the only one. The studio famously stood behind director, I didn't know this, Quentin Tarantino in 2019 when he refused the Chinese government's request to make changes to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The film many critics call his magnum opus. The CCP reportedly did not like the way the historical drama portrayed Bruce Lee, a national hero in China. While the two time Oscar winner is known for insisting on Final Cut rights in all of his contracts to prevent studios from tampering with his work, he told Deadline Sony absolutely backed me 100%. He revealed that while he would have been willing to make minor changes, there's a certain line you cannot cross. That line, he said, included censoring content for political reasons. So Quentin Tarantino didn't want to alter any of his movies, and Sony backed him 100% for Once Upon a Time, which I actually didn't know. Hollywood, China has 1.4 billion people. Thank you. The CCP sent shockwaves through Hollywood when it started denying release dates for a number of Marvel films, including Black Widow, Eternals, Shang-Chi, and The Ten Rings, a movie that was, ironically, in many ways, specifically tailored to appease Chinese audiences. Now that the CCP is letting fewer Hollywood films into the country, there's less financial incentives for studios to preemptively shape content to pass muster with Chinese censors, meaning more studios may soon be following Sony's lead, albeit for different reasons. I think that's really good news because we should be making films for, how is America supposed to have its own identity when it comes to movies if you're appeasing China? And this isn't a secret in Hollywood. Hollywood has basically been owned by China for a really long time, which is very sad because that doesn't give us our own American identity when it comes to film. If we're trying to appease a country that has completely different customs, a completely different culture than we do. And here's something else that I thought was pretty funny. You guys will get a kick out of this. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. Oh, and here's if you remember this, so this was the Star Wars poster, and you can see it. They took off this character right here. That's the Chinese version. So they had to take him off of the Chinese poster for Star Wars. And it really makes me mad. So and that's a Lucasfilm Disney. So Disney will lecture on all kinds of American politics, yet they allow this to happen. They also removed Taiwan flag also in gun movie. She did? Oh, I know what she's gonna try to do. She's gonna try to open that door. I won't let her. Okay, this is hilarious. You guys will find this very funny. Don't you even think about it. She's staring at the door because she's gonna open it. Get back in there. So, a massive PR firm. Well, we all know the big controversy right now is what's happening with the Supreme Court and the possibility that they will overturn Roe versus Wade. So, this is the next Don't Say Gay bill that everyone's going to virtue signal about. And it says a massive PR firm that represents high profile corporations like Coca Cola, Netflix, and Starbucks is privately advising its clients to avoid commenting on abortion rights, according to an internal email obtained by popular.info. The firm, no, Eva, no, no. Did she go back in? Hello, David Kirby. The firm, Zeno Group, created a template email to share with client contacts. The template warns that the media will look for corporations to take a stand on the repeal of Roe. Zeno recommends its clients stay silent. I think that is a good recommendation. What do you guys think? The template email drafted by top Zeno executive says abortion is a textbook 50-50 issue and a no-win situation for companies. It says its silence is best because any statement will alienate at least 15 to 30% of their stakeholders. Hello, walkie talkie. Zero warns corporations that inquiries from the media about reproductive rights should be ignored to avoid attracting attention. Being at the center is not advisable. In section of Zeno's template to clients devoted to social media, the PR firm says companies should not engage with direct questions about your company's position on abortion rights and should not respond to any questions on where your company stands. I think that is excellent. In a March 2021 statement posted to its corporate website, Zeno Group said that everyone must make a commitment to a gender equal world that includes speaking up in the face of inequality. Notorious RBG shattered glass ceilings. Okay, so basically what they're saying there is this PR firm in the past has taken a stand on social justice issues, but what happens when you go woke, you go broke? So they probably realize that it's not a good idea for their clients to take a stand on social issues. One being abortion, which they're right. It's about 50-50, I would say. Who knows? That's just a guess. So it's not smart for you to alienate, they said, 15 to 30% of your consumer base just to make a social justice stance. Have you ever considered leaving California? All the time. There's a group that I talked about a long time ago called Consumer Research, and they actually started a campaign of ads. They raised a bunch of money to make ads fighting back at woke corporations. And um, they say, we saw companies trying to distract from problems within their business, but namely mistreatment of their customers and problems with their protection lines. By getting engaged in political issues and going woke, cozying up to radical left wing politicians in order to distract from their problems and ignore their customer base. So basically, they made a bunch of ads sort of poking fun. They went after Coca Cola, they went after American Airlines. One of their tweets that they added at American Airlines, there's an ad attached to it. And they said, why is American Air appeasing radical politicians to distract from their CEO's 10 million plus payday despite laying off thousands of workers and receiving a multi-billion dollar bailout from the taxpayers the same year? So that's basically what their position is. They say every time you see a corporation appeasing a radical left wing position or appeasing any political stance that alienates part of their consumer base, there's typically skeletons in their closet that they're trying to distract from. For so you can seem like a social justice warrior instead of having people pay attention to your own misdoings. And that was just American Airlines. That was one that they went after, but they raised a bunch of money and made some really funny ads. They made one with Coca Cola, where it was calling out their involvement with the CCP and how they will not fall out the Uyghur situation that happened in China or any of China's misdoings, but they're really quick to call out the US and, like I said, alienate a big portion of their consumer base. The breakdown of the abortion issue is nuanced by details. The vast majority don't want abortion exactly after the first trimester. That's a really good point. So even with pro-lifers, I think it's somewhere, I would say like 70 to 80% pro-lifers do not think you should have abortion past the first trimester. And you're right, it's a very nuanced conversation. And that's where lefties just really get it wrong. Joe Rogan brought this up on one of his episodes too, and it was a really good point. And you made that point as well, Mr. Old School. And the point is, anytime you try to have a nuanced back and forth conversation, where is the line? When does it become a fetus? When is it a clump of cells and when does it become a fetus? Anytime you try to have that conversation with someone on the left, they get over emotional and they shut down the conversation immediately. You can't even have it. And I think a lot of it is because then you have to admit that it is a life. Have you ever heard of the degrowth movement? No, I haven't. There should be audio. Do you guys hear me? I'll turn it up even more. Can you hear me now? What about now? Okay. Okay. I turned it up a little just in case I'm lower on. What about now? Just kidding. Oh, there's hair on that. Maybe it's your audio, Bobby. I am Verizon clear? Good, because I have Verizon and it's very expensive. So I'm glad I'm Verizon clear. It is. It's the most expensive, I think. Okay. The degrowth movement. I have no idea what that is. Should we look it up? Not working on my I don't know. Did you try Verizon ad? Can you hear me now? The degrowth movement. Oh, is that where they're trying to Oh, okay, cool. The degrowth movement of activists and research advocates for societies that prioritize social and ecological well-being instead of corporate profits, overproduction, and access consumption. Degrowth is a term used for both political, economic, and social movement, as well as a set of theories that critique the paradigm of economic growth. Whoa, that's something I'll have to look into. Minimalism. Eleanor, do you have an idea? What is it? Interesting. But what are degrowth movements? Okay. Degrowth is an emerging social movement that overlaps with proposals for systemic change, such as anti globalization and climate justice, common and transition towns, basic income. Okay. Well, I like that they're anti globalization, but is it food? Oh. That's an interesting thing. Did you see less is more? Is that you will own nothing and be happy? I see what you're saying. Oh. Yeah, well, I have seen that a lot of food plants, let's see if I can pull something up on this. A lot of food plants have been a Walmart distribution center, I believe in Indiana, caught fire today, which is a bit odd that this is happening. Do a deep dive when you have time. I will. I know that Tucker Okay, I'll read this out loud really quick cuz I know that Tucker Carlson covered the food processing plant disasters. I'll read just a little bit of it. Sarah, if you wrap some aluminum foil around your hands and raise them up in the air, the audio problem will be solved. No, I have antennas right here. Good, good thing I have an old TV handy. I don't think it's working. Oh, off topic, Japanese fried rice with or without pineapple? Without. She's never amused. Yeah. Well, I might have to dive into that another time. Well, it's all happening on the cusp. Thai fried rice with pineapple is good though. I've never had it. I've had Thai fried rice. I used to go to a Thai place. But I don't remember their fried rice having pineapple in it. Well, what's scary as well, so all of this stuff is happening at the same time where they're trying to censor our conversations, especially with this new this they call it the Ministry of Truth jokingly, but they are actually trying to the defense secretary is actually trying to or Homeland Security secretary is actually trying to create a disinformation governance board, and I have hopefully this is good news, but people are fighting back against it. I'm going to play you some audio from I believe this was earlier today, and this was incredible. So this is Rand Paul grilling Mayorkas on Susan, Nina, say hi. Are they watching? They're watching me. So this is Rand Paul, who I really appreciate Rand Paul as a senator, and he is pushing back at Mayorkas. They're in a hearing over the Information Governance Board. So I'll play it for you right now.
Are you familiar with McNamara? Do we have policies? Do we have guardrails? Do we have
Yeah, but here's
standards
the
to
problem.
ensure
We can't even
it's
agree. We can't even
completely-
agree what disinformation is.
This is-
You
well-
can't even agree that it was disinformation, that the Russians fed information to the Steele dossier. If you can't agree to that, how are we ever going to come to an agreement on what is disinformation so you can police it on social media?
legally-
I think you've got no idea what disinformation is, and I don't think the government's capable of it. Do you know who the greatest propagator of disinformation in the history of the world is? The U.S. government. Are you familiar with McNamara, the Pentagon Papers? Are you familiar with George W. Bush and the weapons of mass destruction? Are you familiar with Iran-Contra? I mean, think of all the debates and disputes we've had over the last 50 years in our country. We work them out by debating them. We don't work them out by the government being the arbiter. I don't want you guardrails. I want you to have nothing to do with speech. You think we can't determine Speech by traffickers is disinformation. You think the American people are so stupid they need you to tell them what the truth is? You can't even admit what the truth is with the Steele dossier. I don't trust government to figure out what the truth is. Government is largely disseminating disinformation.
That was awesome, huh? Did I retweet that? I retweeted that on my page. He's exactly right. And he's in government. And even he's saying the government should not be the arbiter of truth. We should be able to debate ideas. So this is good news as well. 20 attorneys general sign letter demanding DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas immediately disband the Biden administration's Disinformation Governance Board or face legal challenges. So I'll read you just a little bit of this letter that they wrote. This letter states that the Disinformation Governance Board, by its very existence and almost certainly by design, threatens to enforce silence when Americans wish to express views allowed by the administration. It is therefore already chilling free speech and impeding the political process in Virginia and every other state. This is unconstitutional, illegal, un-American. Unless you turn back now and disband the Orwellian Disinformation Governance Board immediately, it's really small writing. The underdesigned will have no choice but to consider judicial remedies to protect the rights of its citizens. And that's why a lot of people don't know this about well, I think people do, but I don't think people the Constitution was made to protect citizens from the government. That's why it's in place. It laments our rights so that there is not government overreach. So our freedom of speech is one of those things that protects it. And if you have this Disinformation Governance Board, okay, who decides what disinformation is? Exactly what Rand Paul said. What is disinformation? And you have the very person that is in charge of the Disinformation Governance Board. You have her online, tons of videos, tons of tweets, tons of discussions where she clearly is super hyper partisan. She was all fine with the censorship of the Hunter Biden laptop story. She called that Russian. What's your channel about? How did your channel get on my playlist? We talk about politics and news. So you have the very woman that is in charge of this disinformation board who is very partisan. So is she the one who decides what disinformation is? Disinformation is whatever the Democrat supporting fact checkers decide it is. The minister. She recently said this too. So this is her on social media saying, this is Nina Jankowicz. This is the head of the Disinformation Governance Board, who said it's not conservatives being silenced on social media. Liberals and minorities are the ones being silenced. When have you seen a liberal being silenced? Cat settled in the new house. Yes, she is. Oh, she's got her back to us. So I thought that was pretty awesome what Rand Paul said. I love that. I love that people are fighting back. Nina, Susan, new BFF. Susan, it's one of my favorite names. I have a daughter, I'm going to name her Susan. Susan is almost like a Karen, wouldn't you think? Bravo to them. They need to fight back. I also get tired of people in politics that they'll say things, but they don't actually do anything. And if there is a time to fight against something, I would presume this is that time. And it's really interesting that they do this right on the cusp of Elon Musk buying Twitter. And we talked about it yesterday. He is going to be the interim CEO. And I saw this is really interesting. And this goes to show you where the public thinks. There has been a 250% increase in people wanting to work for Twitter since the news broke that Elon bought it. I will only answer to the Ministry of Silly Walks. I'm a supporter of people, not parties, people who support people moving forward. Absolutely. I've always said, and we say it a lot on this channel, Democrat or Republican, I vote for the person whose policies I agree with more, a person that has principles and doesn't change a lot, and I think you always should. I'm mostly Republican. I vote mostly for Republicans at this point, but there are definitely a lot of Democrats that I would vote for over a Republican any day. I absolutely I look for people that are for people first because I feel like right now we have so many people in office, and it's true for Republicans as well. There's definitely a bunch of we call them rhinos. Um, who are career politicians and they only care about getting ahead in politics. They only care about or they're so connected to their ideals that they actually go against the people that they represent. Give John Cleese his reparations. A big example of that is Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom recently said something very funny. He said that, oh gosh, where is it? I think I can pull it up for you. Sunny Hostin is not used to guests talking back to her. Oh, I have that. We'll look at that in just a minute. It's so funny. Deal. So Gavin Newsom recently came out and spoke, and this is what's really interesting. If you look at what Gavin Newsom, for those that don't know, Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and he is responsible for a lot of why California is doing so terribly right now. And he always loves to criticize other states. He criticizes Florida all the time. He's always criticizing Ron DeSantis. He criticizes Texas all the time. Even though a lot of people are moving out of his state and going to those states, which I find really funny. But he never actually talks about his own state. If you look at most of his tweets recently, it's about other states. But this is Gavin. So Gavin says, if men could get pregnant, this wouldn't be a conversation. So he's talking about the possible appeal of Roe versus Wade, and he's saying Gavin and Ted Cruz are bandwagon hoppers. You might be right. He says if men could get pregnant, this wouldn't even be a conversation. This decision isn't about strengthening families. It's about extremism. It's about control. We will fight the right to choose. It's really funny. And then I'll show you what he said because it's pretty funny. It's really funny that he says we will fight for the right to choose because if Roe versus Wade gets repealed, it will be the state's right to choose. So it doesn't ban abortion. It does nothing of that. It just says the federal government doesn't get to decide that you have the right to do this. It's not in the Constitution. And there are even people that were pro choice that when this ruling was had, the Roe v. Wade, they said this is a terrible ruling because it's not protected by the Constitution. And what this does is it kicks the legality back to the states. So the states get to decide if it's legal or not in their states. And we all know that there will always be states where abortion is legal. There are corporations that have already come out and said that we will pay if a woman needs to get an abortion. Gavin Newsom has already said that California will be an abortion sanctuary state among all the other sanctuaries that California is. So Roe v. Wade getting overturned does nothing but kick the legality back to the states. And here's the thing about Supreme Court justices. And this is one of the reasons why they're not like one term like an elected official, and why they don't get elected into office is because they wanted to protect the Supreme Court justice from feeling like they need to get elected, from fearing that they'll get backlash from their decisions, so that they can have a clean and clear mind when they're making their decisions. That's one of the reasons why they're not elected. And what they're doing with this is giving the right to choose back to the states, and giving the right to choose back to people, letting elected officials make those decisions for their state. So it's really interesting the language that he used. We will fight for the right to choose. Well, that's exactly what Roe versus Wade being overturned does. Gives the states and the citizens essentially the right to choose. Let's see what he says. And I love Gavin Newsom is a feminist warrior. I don't know if you know this. He is a big feminist warrior. And I love that he said, if men could get pregnant, this wouldn't be a conversation. Does he not know that men can get pregnant now? Um, just ask Apple. They have the new pregnant man emoji. Men can have periods and men can get pregnant. Is he not up to date on social justice? I guess not. Here's Gavin Newsom.
We will stand tall, consistently opposing all of those supports. Hell, they don't even believe in climate science. Talk to me about.
So if you are pro-life, according to Gavin Newsom, according to Gavin Newsom, if you are pro-life, you do not believe in climate science. You're a climate science denier.
Being pro-life. Spare me. Your body, your choice. It's a hell of a moment to live in. Like you say, we will not be defeated. We will stand tall, we will stand firm, and we will affirm the currently constitutionally protected rights of women and girls, their reproductive rights and freedoms in California. And we will assert ourselves, as I said, as Californians by punching above our weight, working with other like-minded leaders and governors and legislators all across this country. And we're not going to roll over. We will not back down. And we will continue to fill in the gaps and address the disparities that continue to persist even in a state like ours, even in California.
Even in California. Yes, so that's feminist warrior Gavin Newsom on, and it's you're seeing this all over, like leftist media everywhere, like this is terrible for women. This is terrible. What are we going to do? This is a health emergency. This is a crisis. Gruesome Newsom, Noodles. I call him Noodles. But that's Gavin Newsom. And here, this is actually something, I don't know if you know this happened. I just sort of found out today. There was, yeah, well, some client change. There was the addresses of the Supreme Court justices. I believe Justice Alito, um, Amy Coney Barrett, and Kavanaugh have all been made public. And the White House refused to condemn this. This is the thing. So this document got leaked. That's how we all know this could or could not be happening. By the way, we don't know whether it's actually going to be repealed or not. This was an inside document. It wasn't a final decision. Um, so we don't know if that's actually going to happen. By the way, abortion is not a right that is protected under the Constitution, and Democrats are now trying to codify that and have it be a constitutional right. They're also trying to pack the court again. Yes, it was an opinion draft. But the fact that this was leaked, that somebody clearly that works for the Supreme Court leaked it, is a huge, huge issue. And this does a lot undermine the sanctity of the Supreme Court. But the White House is more focused on the talking point of um, women's rights as opposed to also, this is very worrisome that this was leaked. And this is a reporter asking Jen Psaki. At first, outgoing White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki seemed to realize she was entering a political minefield. Almost immediately after Thursday's press briefing began, she was asked about President Biden's thoughts on angry protests planned at Supreme Court justices' homes and churches over the anticipated ruling of overturning federal law legalizing abortion. A reporter wanted to know Biden's views on law enforcement authorities making plans to respond to violent protests in the wake of a leaked draft opinion, rolling back two landmark decisions that guarantee the right to abortion nationwide. The veteran White House communication advisor, who just hours earlier announced that Karine Jean-Pierre would replace her in a matter of days, provided an important lesson to her successor. She made sure the press corps knew that Biden understands and shares the anger about abortion advocates are feeling this week. For all those women, men, and others who feel outraged, who feel scared, who feel concerned, he hears them. He shares that concern and that horror of what we saw in this draft opinion. Only after establishing that Biden feels their plan did Psaki call for the protests to remain peaceful. We should not be resorting to violence in any way, shape, or form. But the questions kept in coming. After Biden earlier in the week called Trump supporters the most extreme political organization that existed in recent US history, Ultra MAGA, Fox News' Peter Doocy wanted to know what the president thought of one liberal activist group releasing a map of homes of Supreme Court justices for a Walk By Wednesday demonstration. Are those progressive activists extreme? Doocy asked. Peaceful protests? No, peaceful protests are not extreme. I think the president's view is that there's a lot of passion, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness for many, many people across the country about what they saw in the document. What does Biden think of vandalism already occurring against one Catholic church in Colorado? Boulder's Sacred Heart of Mary Church had "My Body, My Choice" scrawled across the front doors in spray paint earlier this week. We don't condone vandalism, she said. But never once did she condone the addresses. And I think you can do both. You can say where you are on the stance. You can say where the president is on the stance of Roe v. Wade. You can also condemn the leak. You can also condemn activists sharing home addresses of the Supreme Court justices. And one of those is Amy Coney Barrett, who has 7 children, one with Down syndrome. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's the youngest one that has Down syndrome. Brett Kavanaugh has 2 children, so there are kids at home, and maybe it won't scare Kavanaugh, maybe it won't scare Amy, but imagine being a child and people chanting terrible things about your parent outside your home. And this is what some people are saying. If they're going to make a decision, they should make it quick. Most extreme, more than the communists who assassinated. Meadows report for info. Huh? Oh, you totally backtracked me. Time to dox the doxers, these people. Doesn't matter what Biden thinks, dementia is no joke. Well, I think he's just told what to think. I don't think any of his thoughts are actually his own. And we talked about it yesterday. So, a Politico reported that aides within the Biden administration have actually said that they prefer to, when he makes a television appearance, that's why you never see him in the Oval Office. He's, I think, across the street at some old executive building or something. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's always across the street at this White House set. And they have said that they prefer him to address the public there because they can have a permanent teleprompter there, as he has a propensity to go off script. Wonka vision. And here we are talking about, and I believe Justice Alito already had to cancel a public event due to all the threats and the safety concerns. And our Supreme Court justices should not have to worry about mobs coming after them when they make a decision. Their decision should be based on the law, the Constitution. That's what they're there to do. It shouldn't be based on intimidation. And that's why some people are saying if they're going to make a decision on this matter, they should make it very soon to give these people less incentives to intimidate them. They're attempting to intimidate them to make a certain decision. Also, when Biden says that the ultra MAGA is the most extreme group, was he not aware of the summer of 2020? $2 billion worth of property damage? That wasn't any MAGA group. I think I shared. I'm going to go to the View in just a second. Is Eva still in the microwave behind you? Yeah. It's not, it's a TV. Yes, she is. She has her back turned. Eva, say hello. She has her back turned, so she kind of blends in with the color of it. But yeah, that's her bulbous body right there. Antifa and BLM were peaceful protesters. I'm not on truth yet. But here's what they're having to do. It says BLM linked group targeting SCOTUS justices' homes, offering stipends to activists. Radical leftists plan on protesting outside the homes of Supreme Court justices. Senator Cornyn introduces bill to increase security for Supreme Court justices. Riot fencing has been placed around the Supreme Court. So that's what's happening right now. Okay, let's talk about the View, because this is just lovely. Very lovely. I'll play it for you.
Look at your network. On things that are racist. I'm a black woman first, so always understand that. But I do say that I have many conservative values that I will talk to you about. And so if you look at your network that you're standing behind, yes, and when you look at your network that you're standing behind, you're saying that you look at Chris Cuomo. I feel like that's an oxymoron, a black Republican. You feel like it's an oxymoron? Why? Your friend right here is a Republican. We had this conversation many times. You do, and you say you feel like it's an oxymoron that you're Catholic, but you also are pro-life. I don't understand either. No, you don't understand yourself. Then you have this. I understand myself. I don't understand either of this. But it's not a personal conversation. Yeah. We're having a personal conversation about CNN. I don't understand and how things can get leaked, and I don't understand Latino Republicans. Well, here's what today. This is not about me, and it's on things that are racist. I'm a black.
So that happened. Dave Rubin, I don't know if you all follow Dave Rubin at all. He's another commentator, and he actually offered to donate $10,000 to a charity of her choice. I'm trying to see if I still have the tweet up. I don't think I have it up here, but he offered to donate $10,000 to a charity of her choice if she would debate Candace Owens. I can't stand it when they do this. And some people even, I got this for simply just being a woman. How can you be a woman and vote for Trump? I don't understand. How can you be a woman and be a conservative? Because they think conservatism is all about rich white men who don't want women to have rights. That's their closed minded view of what a conservative is. And this just goes to show you, even Sunny, she thinks that people of Latino people and Black people are monolithic and they all have the same brain, that they can't go outside, that they all have to think the same. And that's actually not true. They're for women's rights unless it's a conservative woman. I only saw the part on Blurred View when Jane Fonda and the Harpies were talking about abortion, feminism. Ugh. According to a left, what is a woman? Yes, what even is a woman? And they will never accept, for instance, you have, is she attorney general? Winsome Sears. Hold on one second. Yeah, Winsome Sears, the first Black female lieutenant governor of Virginia. They won't acknowledge someone like her. And she tells people all the time, do not, I don't want to be recognized for my skin color. I want to be recognized for the job that I did. Actually, the first Black senators ever were Republican. So it's so interesting that they always think that just because you are a certain race that you have to be a Democrat. That is not true at all. I'll look it up for you right now. So, Hiram Rhodes Revels arrived in Capitol Hill to take his seat as the first Black U.S. member of Congress. I apologize, member of Congress in 1870. But first, the Mississippi Republican faced Democrats determined to block him. The Constitution requires senators to hold citizenship for at least 9 years, and they argued Revels had only recently become a citizen with the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment. Before that, the Supreme Court had ruled in its 1857 Dred Scott decision that black people weren't U.S. citizens. This technically wasn't actually their main issue with Revels at the time. The Democrats were a party of white Southern men, and they simply didn't want a Black man in Congress. This is from the History Channel. In any case, their bad faith legal argument didn't hold up. Revels' fellow Republicans argued he was born a free man in the United States and had lived here all of his life. Dred Scott was a bad decision that should have never been made, which the Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment had sought to redress. They argued just because the law had only recently recognized Black men's citizenships didn't mean that he was a new citizen. Mr. Revels, the Black senator from Mississippi, was sworn in and admitted to his seat this afternoon. They reported on February 25th, 1870. Mr. Revels showed no embarrassment whatsoever, and his demeanor was dignified as could be, as expected under the circumstances. The abuse which had been poured upon him and his race during the last 2 days might well have shaken the nerves of anyone. Revels took his oath only 5 years after the Civil War. Over the next decade, 15 more Black men took their seats in the House and the Senate, including men like South Carolina Congressman Robert Smalls, who were previously enslaved. So that's just a small part of the history of the Democratic Party. That's why it is so interesting that you hear people when there's a Black Republican or a Latino Republican, or sometimes even a woman Republican, they're like, I can't believe it. Well, you don't know the history of the Democratic Party. Women and people with uteruses. Democrat were formerly called the Dixiecrats. Saying someone is a Black Republican is racist. No, well, it's just an odd thing to point out. That's what I don't like about it. Why are you this? And this is what I apologize, but not all Democrats do this, so I don't want to paint them in such a broad brush. But this is what far leftists do all the time. They reduce you down to your gender. They reduce you down to your race, your economic status. They reduce you down to these things that you have no control over instead of just looking at you human to human. They do that all the time. They say they're the ones that are inclusive. They say they're the ones that aren't all of the ist words that you can come up with, but they constantly just reduce you down to your skin color or your gender. They do it all the time. And it was interesting too because I remember I had this girl. I really got after her. Sometimes I just let things slide, but it was somebody that I know. And I mentioned in a post that I was voting for Donald Trump. And she was like, how can you be a woman and vote for Donald Trump? I'm like, first of all, I haven't seen him do anything that was incredibly offensive. Okay, he has some colorful language. He said some things that maybe I don't like, but I would much rather have someone do that in public than somebody that pretends to be something they're not and somebody that is so rehearsed. I trust somebody who lays it all out on the table as they are. And then I went into her and I said this, I find it really interesting that Joe Biden, the person that you're voting for, actually has very serious um, that's things I'm keeping it YouTube friendly, very serious allegations against him. And the media tried to hide it, where you have Justice Kavanaugh, who had, by the way, the allegations against Joe Biden, they were corroborated. They were very detailed, very believable, way more believable, and corroborated. Remember, the woman who made allegations against Kavanaugh, none of it was corroborated. All the dates were messy. The memory was messy. The allegations against Joe Biden, they were corroborated and they were way more detailed and believable and coherent. And I find it really interesting that the media and everyone will go after Kavanaugh or they'll go after Trump because he said some colorful things that they didn't like, yet they will hide that and it's okay. So it's okay when my party does it, but when your party does it, then all of a sudden you're against women. I'm like, no, I'm not against women. I'm a free thinker and I'm not going to allow you to tell me that just because I'm a woman, I have to vote this way. That's your problem. That's not mine. A number of Black people who voted in 2020. They hated Trump because he couldn't be controlled. Absolutely. That's exactly why they hated Donald Trump. That's why they went wild. And it's so funny because all these people, all of these progressives, when Joe Biden got elected, they were like, ah, we can be normal again. We can get on with normal society again. And we can, I just feel like everything's going to be okay again. No, nothing was wrong. That was the media that did that to you. You allowed the media to brainwash you and to get you all up into hysterics. Look at everything now. Like, is anything better? No, it's worse. Inflation, wars, gas prices, the southern border. And then look at all of these, and then all the people that screamed defund the police. Look what defund the police did. They said they were doing it because of Black Lives Matter. And then look what it did. It actually made inner city communities that are majority Black in some areas, it made them a lot less safe. I talked about it yesterday. So at the beginning of this, we talked about George Gascon. George Gascon is our super progressive DA in Los Angeles, and he ran on criminal justice reform. He's supported by Black Lives Matter. He basically only takes advice from groups like Black Lives Matter. And so that's what he was saying. He was saying we need to fix these racial inequalities in the criminal justice system. Well, let me just give you some numbers and then you can put them all together any way you want. 90% of homicide victims in Los Angeles County are Black and Hispanic men who are oft at the hands of other Black and Hispanic men. Ever since we defunded the police, ever since George Gascon took office, homicides are now at a 15-year high in Los Angeles. So you do the math. What community did that hurt the most? Yet they will tell us that this is about criminal justice reform and racial inequality in the criminal justice system, when all they're doing are creating more victims from the very community that they say they want to help. It makes absolutely zero sense. And I couldn't stand all of my friends all throughout. Now I'm just ranting. I'm sorry, guys. I couldn't stand all of my friends all throughout the summer of 2020 when there was rioting all over the place. They would say, we all need to go, like my white friends who went to university and were raised in the suburbs, who have never stepped foot in any sort of low income area. They probably I'll stop there. But um, they would say, go and support Black businesses while simultaneously supporting an organization that was at the time burning Black businesses down. So, my first question to any of those people: did you donate to any of the GoFundMe accounts for any of the GoFundMe pages for any of the Black businesses that were burned down over the riots? Because there were a lot of those. Did you donate to any of them? Did BLM send money to any of those places? Say like, hey, we didn't mean for this to happen. It got out of control. We condemn any violence that happened. No, they never did. Oh yeah, James Klug. He has look at the last comment. James Klug has a really good YouTube channel where he basically just goes and interviews people on the street. So does Ami Horowitz. Sarah, they were not riots. They were peaceful protests. I apologize. You're right. They were all of that destruction happened in the peaceful protests. My foot's asleep. War is Peace, 1984. They would have to admit that they were absolute hypocrites. And all of those people that cared so much about everything that was happening in the news, and they were so involved in the news ever since the election, they all forgot about it. The Summer of Love. Anything new on Elon and Twitter? No. Well, he's going to be the interim CEO. Elon is going to be the interim CEO of Twitter. And there's not too, he actually had an interesting tweet today. I'll read it to you. There's not too much new on him, although I did see that job interest in Twitter since it was announced that he bought Twitter has risen 250%, which is pretty wild. He had a good tweet today. Did I retweet it? I think I did. Get out of here. He said, "I'm a big believer in citizen journalism and following individual journalists over publications," which I thought was good. The woke twatters are losing their minds. Yes, they are. But it's just fun to see. It's funny to see that the it was almost right after it was announced that he was purchasing Twitter and that the purchase was going to go through, that the Secretary of Homeland Security announced a disinformation governance board. I find that very interesting. DGB is way too close to KGB. Okay, so here's Hillary Clinton on the overturning of Roe. Any American who says, "I'm not a woman, this won't affect me. I'm not black, that won't affect me. I'm not gay, that won't affect me." Once you allow this extreme power to take hold, you have no idea what they will come after next. Oh, this is actually really good news. I don't know if you all were paying attention or knew what was happening with Marjorie Taylor, but there were some hearings in Georgia. They were basically trying to prevent her from being able to run again. And a judge just ruled in that. So this is good news. So a judge finds Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene qualified for reelection. Georgia's Secretary of State to make fine. So that's good news. It was a little bit scary that they were able to do that. She is an elected official. It should be the people that decide who they want their elected official to be, not someone. It was a pretty scary thought to think that other politicians can say, "I don't like you, so I'm going to make it so you can't run again." I don't like that. All right, you all, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. Thank you so much for joining. That was a lot of fun. I might be live later tonight because I want to test out StreamYard. So if you see another notification pop up, but I wanted to play with that and test it out. Um, Maybe we can do a mega pint Friday night. I don't know, but I might be on later just playing with StreamYard. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody. That's what they're trying to do to Trump. I believe it. But that ruling made me happy. It was a little scary that they were even I didn't even know you could do that. Um okay, bye everyone. I hope you have a good evening and a good weekend. I may or may not see you later. Later. Bye. Oh, Trump at 8. Cool. All right, see you later, guys.